Hello folks, my name is Dreadhammer. I'm a member of the Tribunus in the Facta Non Verba guild over here on the Drendon Erythor Shard. I want to take a little bit of time today to talk with you about Paladin tanking, some of the versatility benefits associated with the Paladin class, and hopefully get some of our new guild members on the right track to tanking goodness. Now, as you all know, there are multiple tanking classes within the World of Warcraft universe, such as your Demon Hunter, Paladin, Warrior, even so much as your monks as a brewmaster, and of course, who can forget the lovely druids? After playing the game for roughly 15 years, however, the tanking classes that I have been more partial to have been my Paladin. You could tell I've got a little bit of playtime associated with my character. Perhaps I need to get a life, or perhaps I'm just having way too much fun in the World of Warcraft universe. So, one of the first things I'd like to do is start off, we'll kind of go over what it means to be a protection paladin and some of those important stats that are associated with our paladin class. So the first few things that you're going to look at is going to be your attributes. You're going to notice your strength, stamina, and your armor. Underneath, you'll have your current list of enhancements, such as your critical strike, haste, mastery, versatility, so on and so forth. Now, as a paladin, our primary attributes that we're going to be looking at is actually going to be in the following order, and this is, by the way, before patch 8.3. Our primary order is haste, mastery, versatility, and critical strike. But let's keep in mind, though, that haste, mastery, and versatility, they're very close in terms of their value, and a lot of this more so just depends on the playstyle. If you are raiding, main tanking, off tanking, or you're just running regular old Mythic Plus dungeons within sanity reasons, anything less than a Mythic 15. So let's get into the statistics and the explanations real quick about what's most important to us, considering those four that I've just listed. One of them being your haste. Your haste is going to reduce your global cooldown of all of your abilities, and those abilities happen to be a part of your rotation. Your haste's main task is to increase your Shield of the Righteous uptime. Now, the Shield of the Righteous, you'll notice, slams enemies in front of you with your shield, causing X amount of holy damage and increasing your armor by X number for 4.5 seconds. This is important because any and all that you should be keeping your Shield of the Righteous up, as it is one of our damage mitigation abilities. So, as you're taking a beating from a boss particularly, you're wanting to make sure that you're keeping the Shield of the Righteous up as much as possible, because even though you're only going to be mitigating roughly 10 to 20% of the damage that's coming into you, you're going to be your healer's newfound friend. By the more damage you can mitigate, the less they're going to have to strain their eyes and lack of blinking, as one of our lovely healers in the guild, Raven, would say when he's done healing a Mythic 10 or a 15, he can't blink. So damage mitigation is going to allow your healer to blink once in a while. Your mastery is going to be more so enhanced by what we call your divine bulwark. Now, with your paladin class, when you're tanking, you're going to notice that you have your consecration here. This is actually where our mastery and our divine bulwark come into play. You'll notice that the cooldown of the consecrate's only roughly, for me, 3.6 seconds, but the consecrate lays down for roughly 12. It is important to keep consecrate down at all times, and it is even more so important to ensure that you are tanking mobs within the consecrate area of effect. Now, of course, there are abilities that allow you to expand the AoE radius of the consecrate. We'll go into those abilities in another video, but for the time being, this is completely related to your mastery, hence your divine bulwark, which it actually will reduce all of your damage taken. It increases your damage mitigation, but it will reduce all the damage that you take while inside your consecration by roughly 3%, and it also increases your chance to block melee attacks by 8%. You'll notice my current block value is sitting at roughly 40%, and my parry is sitting at roughly 26%. This is also incredibly helpful when it comes to mitigation, taking on a boss or multiple mobs that are currently enraging. So Mastery increases your chance to block attacks, and it increases your attack power as well. So it's almost as if when you're standing in your Consecrate, you're getting that little bit of a buff to mitigate damage that you're taking, but to also give you a bowl of Wheaties and start beating the crap out of something with a little bit more sophistication than as opposed to when you are standing out of it. It works very similar to Versatility, since it is straight up damage reduction, but it also increases the damage and healing done. So think about that. You're taking on an enraged boss, he's pretty pissed off, you found out you had your hand in the cookie jar, and you throw down that Consecrate, and because you're standing in that Consecrate and he's beating the snot out of you, your healer is also giving you a little bit of love, because any and all healing that you are receiving from all sources is enhanced, but also so is your damage. Now, let's take one step back. As a tank, it is not your job to kill a target. It isn't. It is your job to make sure those targets don't kill your team. It is very important to control your threat. It's very important to control the role of battle by, if you're going to be engaging multiple targets, whether it be ranged or up close and personal, to maintain some level of threat that is greater than your current party, or you're going to experience a wipe, a very sad healer rolling in the fetal position and potentially requiring years of therapy. So just keeping that in mind, that when you are pulling your mobs into you, you do want them to be in Consecration, but I'll also get into a couple of tricks on how to use this with mobs that are chasing you a little bit down the road here. But we go back to what we were talking about, our stats, and get into Versatility. Versatility is the universal how tough am I? It increases all of the damage and healing done, as well as reducing the damage taken. Now, Versatility will give you slightly more damage reduction per point than Mastery, but it is active outside of Consecration. So what that means is, while you're out here getting somebody's attention and you're trying to round up the boys, until you can get a Consecrate down, your Versatility is what gives your damage mitigation while you're rounding everybody up until you bring them into the Consecrate. Once your mobs are in the Consecrate, however, it does take into consideration the Versatility, and it also takes into consideration the Mastery. So now you are getting the added benefit of both the Versatility and the Mastery component. So as we look a little bit more into the Versatility side, it doesn't really add much into the effect of your block, nor does it enhance it. So the idea is to quickly round up the mobs as much as possible, using interrupts to gather ranged mobs inward, and then just spam that Consecrate while you are tanking. The next stat on the list is going to be your Critical Strike. This is fairly self-explanatory, as it will increase your damage and healing output. Now, the healing output's not so much as important for a tanking paladin as much as it is for a holy paladin. As a tank, you do still have several damage mitigating abilities, several healing abilities, but you're not supposed to just sit there, spam heals on yourself, unless your healer is dead, and by which case it's every man for himself, and try to keep yourself alive the best as possible. So it doesn't really do much for you defensively, however. Now, your Judgment critical hits here do increase the Shield of the Righteous uptime, which again, that goes back to mitigating a percentage of damage that you are taking continuously. But outside of that, your crit strike is just going to make it look good if you do have to potentially throw an off heal, or if you're doing some holy damage to a target. Perhaps your DPS is dead, the boss only has a few percentage points left, and you may be the last man standing and the last man to win the war. But again, don't be stacking critical strike if you are a protection paladin. It does you absolutely no good. Your strength is going to increase the armor that you gain from the Shield of the Righteous. Again, you'll notice that several of these attributes are going back to the Shield of the Righteous, and this is because this is your blocking ability. This is your overall biggest damage mitigation boost here. So the stronger, or the higher level strength that you have as a protection paladin, the better the armor, the better the mitigation from the Shield of the Righteous, but it also enhances your attack power. The difference between your critical strike and your raw attack power is your critical strike is a percentage on swing that your impact will critically hit your opponent. Your attack power is consistent and continual, even level damage to your target. So a very high attack power will consistently deal a good amount of damage, as opposed to having to rely on a critical strike and taking roughly a 1 in 8 chance that you're going to get a crit. So with all of that said, overall, you will need a decent amount of health in order to give yourself the chance to be healed before an attack kills you, such as an enrage timer goes off, and a boss could 1 and or 2 shot you. So even though that stamina is important for protection paladins, most of the plate gear that I have come across does have a considerable amount of stamina associated with it. But I have noticed with the potions, such as the flasks, and also some of the enchants that you can put on your gear, none of them seem to be based on the stamina clause, such as stacking it. So, for those of you familiar with some of the legacy WoW gaming, you used to have to stack stamina as a way to just be a meat shield. That's no longer the case. A fair amount of hit points, of course, is important, but as a protection paladin, you would definitely want to look into enchants such as mastery and such as haste, versatility being more bottom of the barrel than anything, and crit strike an absolute last. So, what does that mean if you are a protection paladin, but you also want to double as a retribution paladin? We'll cover that in another video, so I can go over how the gear may be interchangeable. This video is being made on January 8th of 2020, with patch 8.3 right around the corner on January 14th, 2020. Some of the new gear and stats are going to be slightly different to compensate for the 30 eye level boost that we are all about to get in the new expansion, which, side note, I am totally geeking out on and cannot wait to introduce the guild to it, as I've been playing with it since it hit the PTRs about 2 months ago. So with that said, we're going to take a quick pause in this video. We'll pick right back up here in just a moment as we have discussed the attributes. Again, your most important: haste, mastery, versatility, crit strike. When we return, we will go over the paladin abilities and how all of those attributes factor into mitigation, and also a couple of tips and tricks on pulling, keeping ranged targets either at their distance while maintaining threat. In other words, one of the compliments that some of our paladin tanks do get in the field is our ability to keep a ranged target threat on us while we're dealing with target Bravo off to the side somewhere. and target Alpha, who is ranged, doesn't break threat contact from us and doesn't start shooting our healer. So there's a few tips and tricks that we'll go over. So for the time being, we'll take that break and we will return here shortly. I thank you for enjoying the first part of this video.